Yo, Sway Calloway, man. We live in the world of fake news. So that's why we're doing what we're doing today. Sometimes you can't believe what you hear or what you see. So today, we're gonna take you behind the breaks. So I wanted to go to some of the gatekeepers, some of the top journalists, Kim Osorio, Datwon Thomas, Dan Charnas. These people work for some of the most credible publications that hip hop has ever seen. So we're gonna find out what was it like being a journalist in the 90s, like we see Demita Alonso trying to navigate in the breaks. All right, right now we're inside the 4040 Club. This is Jay-Z's spot, man. You see the famous jerseys, Irvin Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. Over there you got Julius Erving. We gotta find a Jay-Z room to talk to the Mount Rushmore of hip hop journalism. Oh, it's right here, let's go. Behind the breaks. Yo. What's up?
Hey.
The gang is here.
What's going on, Sway?
Datwon Thomas right here.
My man.
Okay.
Yes,
Hey, the Oracle over here, man. What's up, man? Dan Charnas. Okay, there you go. Queen of hip hop journalism right there. Kim Osorio. Let me get some love. How y'all doing?
You rescued them. I was just about to like.
Oh, man, she was trying.
Well, you don't know she's a hustler,
She
too.
was super hustler, but she was trying, though.
Well, you gotta be a hustler to be a great journalist, right?
You do.
That's so true.
Okay, well, let's talk about it, man. You ready, Dan?
Born ready.
Let's do it. Come on.
Do
Okay.
I'm happy to have you guys here to talk about hip-hop journalism in the 90s, you know. Because in the breaks, you have this character named Demita Alonso, who's a hip-hop journalist for the Village Voice, who reminds me a lot of Kim Osorio.
Hey.
What point do you feel, Dan, because you were writing long before these two,
Way before.
way before these
right.
two, when did hip-hop take control over its own journalism?
It really began when the Source magazine moved to New York City in 1990, which happens to be the era that we're exploring in the breaks. When they moved to New York, it really signified them stepping up a level editorially, them stepping up a level in distribution, and their profile basically in the industry. Before that time, the only places where you could see serious hip-hop journalism were the Spin magazine, which was an alternative rock magazine, and the Village Voice out of New York.
Now, you mentioned Source magazine. We have Kim Osorio, who's here. At one point, you was an editor-in-chief of Source magazine, right? How did you view journalism, and what was you seeing that made you want to become a full-time?
At the time, I was in college. I was just a fan of hip hop. And, you know, before the Source, I'm gonna keep it funky, I had Word Up and Right On,
That's
right?
The one. That's the one.
But they were just doing Q&A pieces. And you were, you were taking the posters of your favorite rapper and putting them on your wall. You weren't reading stories with substance. And what the Source did was the Source came in and it reported from a very political view. It was, hard-hitting journalism from us, from the hip hop community.
That was the one thing you spent money on: kicks, records, and the Source. And then Vibe came and just changed my life when I was in high school. Well, I was like, I want to work for Vibe. That's where my focus was, because they went over the whole culture where the Source was like really deep in hip hop. I was able to find out about the inner workings of what Gerald Busby and some of the older heads that I didn't know. It was more of like a research project for me. And I just wanted to dive into that even more.
Times have changed now. Back then, if you didn't get it right, you could get served. You want to talk about that? Did you ever have a run-in from a story you did that somebody...
Definitely. I had a run-in. I actually wrote about it, and it was with a particular artist. The label told me that he liked the story, and I ended up going to this, I went to Webster Hall, and said artist was trying to get in, and I was like, oh, y'all gotta let him in. And they finally let him in, and I was like, oh, I'm Datwon, I did the story, I heard you liked it. He was like, I hated that It was like, whoa. And then as we're about to fight, some other dudes come up and they want to fight him. But then they was like, you and your man could get it. And we had to band together to go against them, and that's how the artist and I got cool.
I ever tell you about the time somebody slashed my tires?
No.
Oh,
Goodness
okay.
gracious.
You got your tire slashed for a story you did?
Listen, I can't say, I wasn't there.
Okay.
But I know the day before my tires were slashed, I got a phone call from a said artist who said to me, I know where you live. And I was, popping junk back then because even though I'm a girl, I'm like, yeah, whatever, try me. And then the next day I came outside and I was like,
For flats. Like,
who slashed my tires?
It's interesting, that relationship between journalists and artists. You have artists who make a career out of talking real tough, but they get real thin-skinned and sensitive when it comes to the work of journalists.
Yeah, bro.
So that's an interesting sort of relationship between poetry and prose that you have between the artists and the journalists. And I think one of the reasons that it's like that is that we kind of do what they do on a different level. And so there is that natural, they care. They really do care about, we care about them and they care about us.
The character Demita Alonso in one of the episodes experiences, where she's being confronted for something she wrote. Was this the motivation behind that scenario?
Yeah, it very much was. And also how hard it is, especially for women, for female journalists, to navigate that space.
What was that like for you? You didn't have to necessarily deal with the same thing when you woke up in the morning that Datwon or Dan Charnas had to deal with when it came to getting the scoop.
For me to be a girl or even think like a girl, it was sometimes perceived as problematic. When I was told, you write like a guy, I was actually told that before.
What does that mean?
And it's so politically incorrect now. Back then, I wore it like, oh, I write like a guy. Like, I didn't know. I thought that this was like some sort of shining moment in my career where I could be as good as men. Let's not forget, like, if we're gonna talk just frankly, like, you had a lot of the artists trying to get with the women.
Trying to sleep with the women.
And you had women using the access that, you had because you could get the access. You could get a better story if you maybe slid your number.
people don't understand it's an art form, and it's a delicate dance, because you can go so far that they shut down, or you can go just far enough where they're like giving you everything. So you have to find out within that 15 minutes, like, which way am I going with this person? And it becomes like this ill kung fu battle. Like, they're blocking, you trying to attack, and then they doing the same thing.
Now it's like no holds barred. We could report about things we couldn't report about back in the 90s, taboo subjects, you know what I mean, that people wouldn't even touch on, like homosexuality amongst rappers, especially male rappers. And in the breaks, there's a character named J. Mike who is living, as a homosexual, but kind of scared to how people will react to it, right?
You and K. Clyde been beefing for months. It's a diss track. Everybody know that ain't for real.
J. Mike, gay Mike, ain't never met a that ain't right. Everybody on me about it. J. Mike, gay Mike.
Being out was just not even an option that they were willing to entertain. And what's so heartening about hip hop today is how hip hop has embraced all kinds of ways of being and choices. So we could have a Frank Ocean, so we could have a kind of wide open space for everybody to participate in.
The environment culturally in America wasn't really accepting of that. And now you have full-on marches that's supported by every celebrity you could think of, and say, like, I side with them. I might not even be that, but I side with them. So now you can jump on your 200-something thousand follower platform and say, this is what I am, it's now news for us, and you did it yourself, and there's no one holding something over your head, and that's a totally different lane than where the breaks are coming from that era.
I don't want to lie. It ain't worth it. I'm f***ed if I do, and I'm f***ed if I don't.
Isn't it great that we've gotten to a place of who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Like,
Listen, Kim, I want to tell you I really appreciate your contribution to the culture as a journalist.
Thank you.
As a mom, as a person, as a human being. Same to you, Datwon Thomas.
Indeed, bro.
You guys should be on the Mount Rushmore of journalism and hip-hop journalism. And Dan Charnas, my brother since day one. Okay, so we don't spit all over the dessert. Y'all want to start eating it now?
I know.
All right,
Great.
come on, let's enjoy ourselves. Yo, can I take a bite of a chicken nugget, man? Okay, man. Anybody want one? These are banging, trust me, bro.
just say we have the answers.
Okay.
And in this,
have the
we
answers.
have the answers.
I don't go that
Now
far
I
with it,
do
y'all.
have the answers. I'm Sway. I do have the answers. Peace.
Nobody talked about the end of the interview.
Right. That's what I said.